Well, speaking of top four, we've got the Bombers here,
top
Gus.
one.
So, yeah, I'll start this one. I think definitely one of the hype teams of the pre-season, based on the end of the season last year, and then obviously quite a fit list with a lot of track watchers, particularly impressed with some of the midfield movement they've been doing, and certainly against the Bulldogs, I thought they were one of the most impressive teams in those scratch matches, which obviously you can't put a huge stake in, but they were very impressive. I think the midfield looks good. It's deep now. It's probably deeper than it's been
Ever.
for,
Ever.
what, 15, 20
It's
years?
deeper than, I think this is a deeper midfield than the one that won the premiership in 2000. As an
Yeah, you're
overall
probably
midfield,
right.
it is.
Yeah, so that's good. It's well balanced as well. They've got, particularly with Shield, I know he has his detractors, but in terms of injection of pace through that midfield, he's probably the guy there that provides that. So him back will be good. Obviously, the concern is key position depth, especially up forward. I don't think they need bags out of Peter Wright or Harry Jones to be a good team. They can provide a contest and they can get goals from the midfield and smalls, but if they really struggle or if they get injured, there's not a lot of guys to come in there and kind of take that role, especially when you've got question marks on Tipping Woody and Stringer.
Well, Stringer has said today that he'll play round one. So that's good. That's a huge plus. But he's obviously a guy that needs a really strong preseason, so missing those few weeks might hurt him. But yeah, he's going to have a good year. So I think Essendon are in a unique position because they should be top six. I reckon that's a fair assessment, and I reckon they'll be around that mark. But it's also not a disaster if they don't improve on last year, because they improved so much last year and were way beyond expectations. If they're around that mark again, or even if they drop back a tiny bit, I don't think it's going to be a disaster. They've got a lot of optimism. They've got a lot of youth. They've got an absolute gun intercept defender in Ridley, who I think is an absolute star of the comp. The only issue is last year, I think I saw today, they were 16th without the footy across the season last year, which they need to improve a lot, and they're not going to get much further than they were last year unless they get that into kind of single figures. The two big things are that, and then they were 13th in contested possession differential, so very good. Essendon and first in scoring from stoppage as well, or second or something like that. So outstanding at stoppage, but then the secondary and tertiary contests away from that stoppage were just no good. And part of that is because they were the second or third youngest team in the competition last year. They were an extremely young, very inexperienced side, playing a lot of dudes who were, in their early teens or late teens, not early teens, that'd be weird, late teens or early 20s. And the hope is that, you add some size and those sorts of things will come down. You mentioned that practice game against the Bulldogs. Archie Perkins was the one that stood out for me in that game. Obviously Ridley as well, but he, at sort of that high half forward coming up to the contest, just dominated, to be honest, for a dude who's only 20. He's cut the hair already, so he's already sorted his life out.
Getting serious.
Took Pendle's 8 years to cut off his dreads.
Pendle's had dreads. No one ever forget that. No, I forgot, but no one else should.
Look, as you are with Richmond, I'm far too emotionally invested to be realistic about this. I hope that we're going to win the premiership and also think that we will win the wooden spoon. That's just the nature of being a fan. But I think objectively they are building something really exciting. Whether that goes anywhere, there's always things that can happen. You need luck to be a good team in the AFL. Sam Drape is a massive thing for us. If he gets injured, we're left with Andrew Phillips and Nick Bryan. You mentioned Peter Wright and Harry Jones. If one of them gets hurt, we're left with 19-year-old Kane Baldwin, who was an SBS selection last year, or the aforementioned Andrew Phillips at full forward. There is a lack of, I suppose, mature depth in those positions. But on the other side of that is if everything goes right, they could be a really, really exciting team. And I don't think top 4 is out of the question. I think there's 3 clear, you mentioned them before, but the Demons, Dogs and Lions are the 3 clear outstanding teams, I think. I think that 4th spot is up for grabs, and I think Essendon could be in that conversation for that. As I said, whether or not they are, that's going to be luck and form and a bunch of different other stuff that we'll talk about as we go through the season.
Can I just get your prediction fast forward to the end of the year? Who do you think, all things going well, will be Essendon's leading goal kicker at the end of the season?
I mean, the best case scenario would be that it would be Harry Jones, and he takes that leap into, whatever he's going to be of a 45, 50 goal a season player, maybe more. Whether or not it might be a year early or a year or 2 early for him to do that, that's also possible. I think the most likely answer is probably Jake Stringer again, because he just if he has these games where he has 24 possessions, 10 clearances, and 5 goals, and that's all she wrote. But I think that the best case scenario would be Harry Jones taking that leap, because I think that changes the complexion of Essendon, if that is the case.
Yeah. I think that's a fair call, and I think that they will probably... I think Stringer's still the most dangerous player around goals sure, because if you look at the other guys, it's you're not expecting more than 20, 25 goals.
Jake Stringer's our best player at his best. It's just whether or not he plays at that level enough for it to be worthwhile.
All right, let's move on then. So